Hey everyone, it's Rye. This is going to be kind of an epilogue slash recap guide on all of the beginner guide series. And I kind of wanted to make this video to show people who maybe have access. Everyone has access to all the videos, but may like watch all the videos, but still feel like, I'm still having trouble, or, I'm not fully getting the gist of this or whatever. This guide is supposed to kind of be a supplement to people who feel that way, and also my general thoughts on how to improve. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about how I got a lot better in a really short amount of time. But yeah, let's just jump in. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I wanted to bring up, you know, the channel. So first of all, thanks everyone who subscribed. Thanks everyone who likes all the videos and comments and whatnot. I read all the comments. It's really really encouraging, right? Like I don't even know who's watching these videos, to be honest. Like I don't think there's 360 people in the group that play a lot, but clearly there's a demand for this because this was posted like not even 24 hours ago, which is really crazy to see. Um, but yeah, like it's always interesting to see like which videos get the most views and stuff. Like obviously the tier lists are gonna get a lot, um, but some of them which I feel should be the most popular ones, but I could understand why people don't care as much. But in my opinion, they actually share the most information to improve your game. And people might be like, "Oh, it's probably the tradition build order," or if you go back, like it's probably like the settling cities thing. And yeah, I think the settling cities thing is very important. I think the multi-stealing workers, like learning this, it's a quick video, but like learning this is genuinely super super important um, to like conceptually like understanding how to like keep your game on a consistent, because workers are the one thing that you always need a lot of every single game. So understanding how to get a lot of them consistently is really important. Um, you know, One thing I will say is that if we go to playlists, like if you're learning the game and you don't play no quitters, if you don't play no quitters, don't watch anything else. Only watch this beginner series. Obviously, watch like if you're trying to improve and like you're going into this like watching it to try to improve. I would not watch any of the Some Insane Civ games. Would not even think about watching the Honor Guide. Definitely don't watch me talk about how to win a game. Um, I think the coaching session would be a good thing to watch. Like I'll probably have more of these in the future. The tier lists, whatever, right? Like there's a reason why every single game I'm loading in, I'm playing Yugoslavia, right? Every single time. And the reason is, first of all, if someone sends me another fucking game of them playing Russia, I'm going to blow a gasket. Because this is not a representation of your average game. Guys, the point is to have a bad game. That's why you're playing Yugo. I want you to have a weak game. Because this is how you set the very lower bound for every single one of your games. Every single Civ can do what Yugoslavia is doing. Exception of Mexico, I guess. Every single Civ can do this. That's the point. We want to keep things standard. We don't want to play stuff like Russia or Belgium or Huns, the stuff that really speeds up your game. Yeah, your game's going to look better than it really is, but that's not how good you are as a player, right? The point of what I'm trying to do here is kind of show you guys like, okay, if you only play Yugo, when you get a real Civ that does something, your game is going to be even better, right? So that's the first thing. That's obviously a small tangent. But the second thing is when we're watching these beginner guides, they're intended to play in order, right? I mapped this list out in order. Why does it like how to learn Civ 5 and Lekmod, right? Picking a policy tree is like the first thing. The first 15 turns. Multi-stealing workers, because that's usually in the first 15 turns is when you start stealing them. Settling cities. Usually your first city comes down around turn 15. Weird. City supplement video. The war timings of Lekmod. This might be out of place, but the reality is I think it's important people know when they could get attacked, right? Then we talk about the tradition build orders and tradition sim, worker micro, city micro, tradition secondaries, and then the same stuff for Liberty, and then obviously coastal as well. So what do I think is the most important thing? What are the videos I would spend the most time on? Well, the first thing is definitely first 15 turns. This video is super important. Multi-stealing workers is very important, but it shouldn't take up a lot of your time. Settling cities is something that I feel like you learn by playing rather than having strict rules. I think this video is great for you to watch, but I don't think it's as important as some of the other ones. Don't care about war timings. Tradition build orders, again, I think this is great to get a sense of where you want to do, of where you want to go, what you want to do. But for the most part, it's not vital to improve your game. Same with the Liberty stuff. These are the two that I would spend the most on because it's the most common that new players fuck up. Okay. And it's the biggest way to improve your skill. Like if you play a good bit and you're still like kind of struggling or whatever, you're probably failing in the worker and city micro department. So these two videos, like this is what surprises me the most. They have the least views of every one of my videos, or not all of them, but like of a lot of the like learning Lekmod stuff. But they're probably the most important ones. I would spend a lot of time working on worker micro, understanding like where you should be moving your workers, what you should be doing, right? Even more experienced players struggle with this stuff, guys. Like, so there's always something you can learn about this. And obviously the city micros to a lesser extent, but understanding that. Okay, so I know I'm just kind of talking broadly. How do you know if you're in a good spot? That's a good thing. Like, how do you know like you're on the right track? Like I said, you only care about the first 50 turns, and this is true when you're learning the game. Absolutely. Definitely true. But when can you really see how your game is developing and where it needs to go? Well, in a no quitters game, this is like my arbitrary method to understanding how bad my personal game is. Like, and this varies for everyone, right? Like their standard, but in my opinion, you always go workshops first when you're learning because it makes things a lot simpler. And then if you can get workshops built and unis unlocked, like you teched unis, you have the tech for unis and you're starting to make them on turn 75, you're relevant in 95% of all NQ games. If you can have unis teched and workshops built by turn 75, you're relevant in 95% of all NQ games, right? That's a big statement, and I think it's 100% true. So if you're having a good game, I want you to keep playing it. I want you to go to 75, and I want you to see when you get unis up. If it's on 75, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Try to hit that every single time. If you're really far off, you're messing up way earlier. Turn 75 is an indication of how your first 30 turns went more than it was the last 20. So work on your first 30 turns. Work on your first 15 turns. Make sure that they're good, right? What I did when I was learning is everything was self-taught. There was not a lot of formal guides. The only thing I had was the Galfat guide. And he made it very clear, like, I wanted to learn Liberty because I thought Liberty was the most fun. So I watched his Liberty guide probably 5 or 6 times. And I tried to get his timings down to a T. And, I'd play the first 50 turns probably. I guess this is a little bit about me. Like, I never really played vanilla Civ. I only ever played NQ. When I got into the group, things were like I literally had no experience beforehand, so I didn't have enough hours to even join the group. So what I did was I would just play single player and do the first 50 turns or first 60 turns, whatever Galfat went to increase my hours. So I did the first 50 turns first 60 turns for about 40 to 50 hours, I'd say. Like, I just did that for 40 to 50 hours. But what that did was it made my early game very, very consistent. Or, consistent relative to someone who just joined. And off the like, my very first game, I got ear ward. I didn't die. I defended, and it turned into an ear ward by like a fairly good player. Right? That was my very first game. Obviously, I've had so many bad games since then, but it goes to show, if you prep accordingly and you set yourself up so that you're not going to get demoralized when you join these lobbies, you can easily compete without having any experience. So I'm like a fairly new player. I've got about 4K hours total. I think a lot of those are AFK, as I'm sure most people who play Civ can attest to. But I've only been playing this game for about 2 to 3 years, like 2 years. I've been playing for about 2 years, right? Like I started playing Civ 5 altogether 2 years ago, and I don't have half the hours as a lot of the people I'm competing with, but I'm still able to compete. I'm still able to beat them all the time, right? Like, so you don't need to have hours to win, and that's kind of something I wanted to stress. The other thing is, when you're this is like one thing that like I really want to focus on here, but when you're practicing, practice, right? Focus on playing the 50 turns. Like, your goal should not be to have fun. It should not be to do silly little things, and it should not be to like, oh, I could try this strategy. And like, no, your goal is to get better. Your goal is to like, effectively, your goal should be to try to get your sim to the best possible position it can be. And in order to do that, you have to focus on practicing, right? I don't know what the fuck's happening with my mouse, but so focus on certain things, right? When, let's say you want to practice Liberty, right? What would you do? Would you just like press settle here? No. What I would do if I were you, and let's say you're very new, I would explore the map and wait until you get a Liberty map, right? So this is a Liberty map for sure. But you could do whatever you want. Like, you could say this isn't good enough, and then I want you to keep re-rolling the map until you think you have phenomenal Liberty land. Or if you want to do it for tradition, do it for tradition, right? You'll see everything. Obviously, only give yourself like 4 or 5 runes at most. Don't take all the runes and stuff, right? So then I want you to play the fucking game. And I want you to see how fast can you get to universities on what you consider to be good Liberty land, or on what you consider to be good land in general, right? I don't want anyone to think, oh, I just keep rolling bad land. That doesn't exist, guys. I could get to turn 75 unis with workshops every single fucking game, regardless of what my land looks like. So obviously that's an extreme example, but my point is, if you're playing, you can do it. It's not your land, it's you. So focus on what you can control. Try to play your land better. Try to identify certain things, right? Again, don't try weird shit. That's not the point. This is again when you're practicing, right? When you're playing with friends or playing just fucking around in single player in general. That's not practicing. That's just having fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there has to be a difference in your head. You have to be, okay, you have to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to be practicing right now. And then during that time, you're like, okay, I really want to think about my worker micro, and I want to focus on practicing worker micro. And so it's like, okay, when I settle my city, where's my worker going instantly? Okay, it's probably going to chop this deer. Okay, where's it going after that? It's probably going to go to this amber. Okay, where's the next worker going? Probably going to this amber. Okay, what about the next one? And like, where's the first settle going to go? When is that building a worker? When that worker comes out, where is it going? Where's the next place it goes? Where the next place it goes? When do you build your roads, right? You should be thinking about all of this stuff when you're playing. This game is very, very difficult. I can't stress this enough. Like a lot of what you see on Twitch and what is experienced players who have played the game for years making it look very easy. But this game is extremely punishing to new players. It's extremely hard to really figure out once you're kind of just thrown into it, right? So I can't stress this enough. Please focus on practicing. Roll your game until you get good land, and then keep doing that, and then try to get the timings you're looking for. And if you can't get the timings you're looking for, you're doing something wrong, right? And then go back to the videos, like watch some of the example games I have. Look at how I'm moving my workers. Look how I'm moving my settlers. When am I getting worker steals? When are, where's my warrior all the time? How close am I keeping my units? Like, these are just such fundamental things about the game that I can't stress enough, like how much they matter. Like, play for fun separately. Like, all of these kind of like go together. Reps. This is the most important thing. You're not going to get good overnight. This takes a lot of time. There's so much about the early game that is so intricate and so game dependent and varies. It'd be impossible for me to say, yeah, you can become a top level player in like a month. Like, no, of course not. Like, the people you'd be playing against have all been playing this game for like substantially longer than that. But can you compete in a month? Can you make it to the end game? Can you win some games? Absolutely. I 100% think that. Can you do that in a week? Yes, I think so. Right? The skill gap is big, but it's not that big. Like, it's definitely doable. Okay? Targeted focus. This is kind of what I was saying before, but when you're going into a game, tell yourself, I want to improve on this. Don't just say, I want to get timings faster. That's not something to improve on. Timings are an indication of how your game is going, rather than an indication on like it's just like, it's like a general indication. Like, if you have really fast timings, you're probably having a really good game. If you have really slow timings, your game is shit. Right? There's no in between most of the time. So for the most part, just don't look at timings as like rule. Look at them as a guide. That's kind of the next point I was going to make. Timings are more of a guide than they are something you have to hit every single game, right? This 75 unis thing that I was mentioning, this is a guide. I will say it's a very strict one, because I think I've played some really, really, really bad games lately where I still get unis by turn 75 or earlier, right? In my challenge games where I'm literally just trolling, that you'll be seeing posted in the next couple days. Like, still hitting Ed by turn 75. So you can really like fuck up pretty bad. But if your worker micro is good, your city micro is good, you're learning to flicker tiles and whatnot, like, that's kind of what you need to be focusing on. So what else can I like say about kind of doing this thing? The one thing I will say that really, so my personal experience was when I started playing, my very first no quitters game, my very first game, I met one of my current really good friends now, this guy Alex, because we had really, really close ping. It was like 10, something like that. And then like we started DMing. I joined him on TeamSpeak. And then, we just started hanging out. Like, I would ask him a ton of questions and he'd help me figure it out. And then, eventually I started playing. He was also part of like the skirmish community, so I started playing skirmishes. And I will say, when you play teamer games, so like Weavy or Skirmish or Snowy or something else, you learn so much more, so much faster, because you have people yelling at you, telling you what to do, making you rethink certain city spots, understanding what a defense is. Like, not only are you getting a lot of war reps, but you're also like just learning a lot from sim, because they want to win. Like, your teammates want to win, so they're going to tell you what to do so that you do win, right? Okay, so that was really lucky of me, but the other thing that happened was, because I was constantly asking questions or whatever, I met someone named RPG, who's just one of the nicest people ever. And he really took me under his wing and taught me how to play Honor and whatever. And then eventually, like, I started really getting the hang of things. And then I found my groove. I found my play style. And then here we are. And now I'm probably one of the best players. So I think the reality is, individual, quote unquote, like mentorship or having someone to ask questions that's better, or constantly being able to like throw ideas at each other, or having someone backseat you very, very consistently is something that's very, very helpful and drastically speeds up your game. I remember some of my really good friends were very new to Civ, and then I spent like a lot of my time like kind of teaching them the ropes and showing them like what they were doing wrong and how they could rethink, how they have to think about the game, and now they're all very competitive players. So the other thing I'll say is I think these coaching sessions are incredibly important. Like, I would definitely try to watch this at least once. See what questions that I'm asking the person or the person's asking me and how we're answering. Understand the movements they're making, and then what criticism I have or whatever. Like, understand why we settled where we did, stuff like that. You can constantly be quizzing. The nice thing about Civ is you can constantly be quizzing yourself about how you can improve and what you can do to what you would do if they were in your spot, right? It's almost like chess in the sense, like, if you see a board state and it's white to move, you can ask yourself, okay, if I'm white here, what am I doing? It's very similar in Civ. It's like, okay, if I'm Yugo here, what am I building right after this? Right? Okay. Yeah, 2 scouts. Okay, after 2 scouts, what would I build here if I'm Yugo? Where would I move my worker first? Where did he move his worker first? Why did he do that, right? And this is actually how I got really, really good at. I think worker micro is probably one of my one of the skills I'm best at relative to other players. I think I have probably some of the best worker micro, but I actually got really good at worker micro from watching Grabo. And this is one of the resources. I would say because Grabo plays tradition a lot, you need to have very, very strong worker micro to compete in tradition. So what I would recommend doing is watch other people who are very good at the game, right? So this is a humble shout out. You can watch my stream. I answer a lot of the questions. There's a lot of really a lot of my friends watch the stream as well, and they love answering questions for new players as well. So definitely check out my stream when I'm streaming, though I will say I don't stream very much. 4 days, 5 days, 11 last month. Yeah, so it's not very consistent. I'm just too busy with work most of the time to do that. But there are a lot of really good players you can watch. I think Box is one of the people that I would watch if you're like trying to find weird ways to play the game, because Box plays very different than most people. I think Abraxas plays he's one of like the more aggressive players in the group. So if you want to learn about war and learn about like how to effectively attack or defend people, definitely would recommend watching his game. He also has a very, very strong sim in general, so highly recommend him. One of my personal favorites is watching Hoy. Hoy doesn't talk at all because he's a terrible streamer. I'm only saying that because I know he's going to watch this video. But he does have incredibly good sim. Like, some of the best sim in the entire fucking group. Did he starve here? Is that what happened? He does have some of the best sim in the group. So I would definitely check him out. Ashwin. Though Ashwin does a lot of dumb shit occasionally, he is very, very good. He's a very volatile player, so he can have incredibly fucking crazy games, or he can just have like you can just watch him like throw away a sim all the time. But my point in all of this is, like, I'm definitely missing some people here. But my point in all of this is there's a lot of people that you can watch, and there's a lot of resources you have for watching Civ, where it shouldn't be for, if you're trying to get better, it shouldn't be for entertainment. You should be watching what they're doing. Ask the streamer, why did you build this building here? Why are you teching towards civil first? Why are you going workshops right away? Why are we going for Aya here? Like, why is this 4-city tradition and not piety? When would you pick piety in this spot? Right? Like, I'd say in general, when you're asking good questions and you're not just like, why is my sim bad? How can I get better? Like, these are terrible questions. If you ask the right questions, like, why are you doing this? I saw like you had a lot of unique luxes. Why wasn't this Liberty? What did you want to do this game? This is kind of how you have to be going about it. And the Civ, like I'm very biased because I'm a part of it, but I feel like the Civ community is genuinely very nice and helpful for new players that are trying to get better. When you are, you have like a chip on your shoulder for whatever reason, and you're constantly warring. There's nothing worse than an over-aggressive noob because they just ruin every fucking game. No one wants to play with them, and it's just annoying to play with. Of course, everyone kind of starts somewhere, so it's expected that you change over time. But if you are someone who's constantly asking good questions, constantly trying to learn, shows willingness when it comes to, taking people's advice and putting it into action, I think people respond very well. So, I think that's all I really wanted to cover. I don't want this to feel, and of course, I mean, whenever this is posted, but the weekend of the 14th, I'm going to try to have the new player, six new players go against each other, and then I'll do that on stream, and I'll post the YouTube video afterwards. But I want this to feel like you're not just it's not just self-taught. I want it to feel like there is a supplemental guide. I want this series to feel like there's an answer for a lot of my questions. And the other thing is, like, when you have questions, leave them in the comments. I'm always like leaving like pretty long-winded I mean, some of these are ridiculously long-winded. I'm always leaving long-winded responses to all of my comments. So don't hesitate to ask questions. I'll always try to answer them. Feel free to message me on Steam, right? Like, my name is Rye. Okay, Hoy is just fucking trolling. My name is Rye. Just literally message me in the group. Or message me on Discord or whatever. Like, I'll, whatever. But that's all for this video, guys. I just want to say, again, thank you so much for all the support. I kind of just started posting these videos, and people just really like them. So I'm glad that the response is as good as it is. I'm glad that everyone kind of is enjoying this. Like, it's so bizarre to me that I just make a video, I just post it, and then like a day later, it's got like 400 views. That is kind of cool to me. I know it's not much by YouTube standards, but when you know how small the Civ group is in general, like it is really cool. But anyway, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to, leave comments, whatever. I don't actually care that much, but it helps the channel. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, anyway, again, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for all the support. And we're going to be starting our intermediate series, right? Actually, I have the overflow video already made. So it's just kind of about when I want to post that. But yeah, anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for being here, and stay tuned for the next one.